Happy Sunday. It is time to get into those charts, prepare for the week. I'm trying to be on somebody's boots, okay? You see the background? It's my motivation, okay? When I come to this week prepared, I'm about to get ahead of my work. I'm about to get ahead of my trading plans for the week. I'm ready. I'm ready for these kids and all the snacks they're trying to eat. Shout out to the parents surviving summer break. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into some charts. What about that girl Tesla? Oh my gosh, we gotta talk about that one. I did have some potential setups that I do want to share with you guys, and then we'll look at our usuals. So let me get these in here. Let me know in the comments, how did your week go? I want to hear from you guys. Give me more comments and engagement. I will write back. I promise I will. Um, So let's see. Let's go ahead. I do have these two charts pulled up. Very interesting setups ahead of their earnings, so we'll look at those. But let's get to first our economic calendar. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm working on a setup in my on my desk, so the lighting to me seems a little weird, but we'll go with it for today. Economic calendar. All right, so what we're looking for is to see what data we have ahead of our week so that we know what can influence our trades for the week. So for Monday, we have some wholesale inventories, consumer inflation expectations, auction, 6-month bill auction. So consumer inflation expectations will be interesting. So I'll be like watching that one. Tuesday, some crude oil, some data. Um, NFIB, Business Optimism Index. I'll look that one up. I'm not really familiar with what that influence is, but whenever that happens, what I like to do is get into Chat GPT and just ask the right questions. That's my girl. All right, Wednesday we do have CPI. I always tell you, guard your edges. CPI is coming. So it's nothing to be afraid of. However, we do need to be up on what CPI can impact. What does core inflation mean? So make sure that you do your homework tonight ahead of the trading week. Trading week. Make sure that you're ready for Wednesday. And then following CPI, we got jobless claims. We have all of our unemployment data, core PPI. So busy week, busy week. So that is the data ahead of next week to keep your eyes out for. Again, you can take on ChatGPT and be able to ask the right questions and what stocks may be influenced. You can even go to predictions and what we may anticipate for crude oil data, and then look to see what type of plays or setups you can find using that. All right, so we're going to go into charts, and I was actually having a session with someone, and we were looking at play at the end of our session. It just was one that caught my attention when I was looking ahead of what earnings is that. Okay. All right. So let's look at play. Let's take a look at play. We are going to look at the month first, and we're going to see just where play has been in the past. So play is Dave and Buster's. I don't know if anyone is a Dave and Buster's fan, but I'm a big kid, and so me and my kids still go. We're actually going to be going soon. So the high on the monthly chart looks like our all-time high is 73.48 for play. Okay, 73.48. And when we look at where we are with price, we are all the way down to our current high. Wow, $23.93. Our most recent high point from this pullback was in 2024. We peaked to 69.82. Okay. So we're looking at Play. When does Play have earnings? Play has earnings June 10th, so Tuesday. All right. So we'll be watching this one. This is a cheap one. This is small account friendly. Look at the contracts, look at the spreads, consider shares. Now, what you're looking for is actual confirmation that you should be investing, maybe catching a pre-earnings play. What I do like is when I look at the weekly chart, we're already, I'm sorry, two week chart. We're already getting the arc. We're getting the inverse arc forming with the crossover, right? And we're also at the same time on the 2 week chart trying to reclaim our 12 EMA, okay? All great signals. We want to see price start to reach above the 12 EMA from here without touching if we're going to look at the 2 week chart. And then we see that there's a stretch. If we just look at it from the 2 week, we have a nice gap up to this 200 weighted moving average. There's a break of structure here. So let me get some challenges when we get around $29. Again, when we target around $33, and then we're looking possibly for a play all the way to $37 and plus. There, it's going to be resistance right ahead, right at around 37.75. That's the 2 week chart. So let's see what we see here. All right, on the weekly chart, we're also getting a nice signal because we're getting an inverse arc that has formed here around the end of April. So if you were buying shares at the end of April in this order block that we've had on our charts for play since it's like 2020. This is the first time. So this is when you look and see that, wow, this stock has came full circle after a pretty solid run all the way to 2021, some pullbacks and a lot of consolidation. They made their next leg up. It almost looks like this is like a perfect head and shoulders play once you got here and formed the right shoulder, right? You got your left shoulder, you got your head, and then you got your right shoulder. And look what we did. We love an inverted and a regular head and shoulders pattern. That looks really good. Anyway, since that pullback, we get that debt cross. We call it the debt cross, and we were able to pull back even more, creating another lower high here. And then we've just been pulling back, but we finally made it to an area of demand from 2020. Okay. Once we got here, we're already getting the inverse arc. We're already getting price trying to reclaim the 12 EMA on the weekly chart. And it leads us to about $26 before we start to hit this order block here that will present an area problem. So, I mean, if they were going to gap up, they closed at 23.86. We're looking at a potential test to 29, I'm sorry, 26.23 and possibly as high as 29.30. Basing it off the weekly chart looks good. So there is a chance to squeeze out some more dollars on this particular stock. So I'm going to keep this one on watch. I just wanted to bring play to your radar. Obviously, they have a pretty big stretch to go. Looking at it from the daily chart, the 200 is right here. And we really want to see if they can get to that $27 range, 27.57, maybe even as high as 29. I would say so close to earnings, you probably at this point want to watch maybe daily setups on play and see if we can reach 25 and then see if we can also reach 27, like somewhere in that range. This is throwing me off 1 second. Here we go. It's like I'm seeing myself and trying to see you guys. All right, see the screen. We can, yeah, challenge the top of this cloud. So that still puts us in this order block here that may signal some selling pressure. And we'll have to see what they do for earnings. So even if you get a good pullback, I would keep this one on your radar because, again, what we're seeing is a stock that has pulled back all the way to a demand zone, found support in this area right here. This is the monthly chart. We saw that they were in an order block on the weekly that they have never came back to challenge. So I like it. I like the potential here. Remember, you don't have to always be in options. You can also look and consider shares. There is still another order block lower here that they can fall to if they don't do well with earnings. I'm not saying they're going to get to $10, but I'm saying something to keep in mind is that earnings can drive a play either direction. So we'll have to see if they complete the full gap down or if they start to make their recovery and get back to an area where they were consolidating before in the 30s. CarMax is also on my radar. I do like this one as well. Even what's nice about this one is, let's see the history of the order block they're in. We got to really squeeze to find it. So this order block was created around 2023. Okay. And so we've come back. Let's kind of squeeze all of this in. And we've been able to close this full circle. So we're right back at an area of historical support around 6181. And we're seeing that buyers are starting to show up, right? We created an order block back in April. We did a nice little gap up to 70 and pulled all the way back here. Okay. So I'll be watching this one because we're a little early to the earnings. Earnings is set for June 20th. So we can think that maybe the days to come, there may be some more buyers starting to show up. We're also in another order block on the monthly, which we've been here a few times over the years, but we're right back at this order block. And I'm just trying to see what I see. We don't have the wolf trend moving average catching up to it, but it did test the full cloud of the 200. We don't want to see it lose this order block on the monthly and start to pull back even further down. Their last earnings, they did miss by 12%. Not good. And the one before, they beat by 31%. Interesting. So we'll look a little bit closer, but zooming out, there is not very much of a confirmation that they found solid support, except that they have fallen to this order block. They've been here a few times before, and we don't want price to start losing this order block and closing some further gaps down. So we'll zoom in a little bit, and we'll see what their all-time high was and when. So it looks like they reached their all-time high at 155.98 in 2021. Since then, they've kind of been in this monthly box. Price really needs to get above 87, 89.47, just from an overall perspective to start targeting some additional upside level. So that's a big gap up, right? But they're basically in a box, and so they need to kind of break that range that you see here. They're in a consolidation period, really. And you see that like we saw it basically on the play chart. They get into this area of consolidation and then they just have a breakout. Here's some sideways training, then we go down. Sideways trading, go up. So right now it's just choppy all the way through. So we'll need to see whether their next leg up is back to the upside, right? Or if we have to come test some lower levels before we make a move to the upside. Still worth a watch, either direction. Again, a stock that's less than what we pay for Tesla, I'm sure, in contracts. And also, it's probably affordable where you should be looking to consider shares as we're reaching these order blocks, because as you can see, the potential of this stock goes as far up as 150 plus dollars. So on the 2-week chart, again, area of demand, but they're not breaking this trend line so far. So wolf trend is trying to catch up to it. When we look at the weekly, we do have the wolf trend moving average starting to catch up to price. We want to see a full arc confirmation on the weekly chart if you're going to be taking any swing trades based on the weekly chart. That has not happened. We need to see the 12 EMA starting to curl up and price reclaiming that 12 EMA. That has not happened either. So we are still looking to see where do we have confirmations. Oops, I want to go to 3-day. 3-day was not a chart I was ever looking at, but when your mentor is looking at something, I'm going to look at it too. Follow the leader, follow smart money. All right, so what we have here is price just chopping away in this demand zone, this order block here, but we did get the arc crossover. You really got to zoom in to see it starting to form. So when we see a crossover, and it's a choppy one, we have the green now starting to cross over the red. We're forming a very choppy arc, but again, we're in this order block, so What I like is whenever they hit order blocks and they do decide to pop out, we just need to break this area right here on the 3 day at about 65.90. So you can almost say that you want price holding above 66 and a stretch around $70. Let's see what the daily tells us. So if you were going to get contracts and you really want to base that off of your nearest resistance, your contract prices would need to be one price is holding above the 12 EMA. We got that with this candle, and then we got a retest and wicks off the 12 EMA. That makes me think that price will try to hold here. Okay, it will try to hold here. And if that happens, we are looking for resistance, very small resistance around 66, 67, um, 68, and then I think we should target $70. Over $70. I mean, the stretch here looks beautiful when you look at it from this is the daily time frame. So keep this one on your watch. This is CarMax as well. I'm not going to spend too much more time on that. Let's look at our screener because we did not look at the heat map. Let's take a look at what we were doing. Ooh, look at the green. Was it just last week we saw a sea of red, right? Look at ABGO, poor baby. ABGO, not doing too well after earnings being 5% down. We can take a look at that one and see where we're going. Check out Zom. Zom has earnings. I put Zom on the radar thanks to, oops, one of our wolf traders who mentioned catching successful trades in Zom when it's this low. What I still am waiting on from Zom is the same story. As you can see, I don't really have to go too deep into it. I'm waiting on that break. I have it at 104.43. And if they can start getting above 104 and targeting 105, 106, and the key area that I always find Zom choppy on before they have a breakout is holding above 108. So I would say short term, if they're going to get any type of momentum ahead of their earnings, that we should look for that 108 area. I like that target. Now, I will look at strike prices ahead of earnings somewhere around 105 or less, if in the money if you can, or at the money. And what we're looking at is earnings at July 25th. July 25th, they will have earnings. So let me just move a little bit faster so we can get through some more. All right, what do we see on ZOM? We have the arc forming on ZOM, right? We have this nice bullish green candle where we're trying to break the 12. I just think price, I'm actually going to move this up. I'm going to move this support resistance up. I'm going to layer it right here. We need to see price break 104.88. That would be my target, somewhere around there. Could make it exact to 104.92. You could round it up to 105, okay? But nevertheless, once we get that clean gap up right here, then we have a better and smoother trade to one, try to target breaking this trend line that was formed right here. Because as you can see, this was the high point before we had the sell-off, right? The most recent pullback. So we need to see price break this trend line and start to swing this way around 109. So 108 and 109 would be my nearest target if I was to enter a trade on calls. I just want to see them start to hold above 104.88, targeting 105, reclaiming that. I think it's like at 105. Let's base it off of 105.29. And then again, I think the test needs to be this trend line. And then I think, well, actually this trend line here as well. Like we need to reclaim all of this. And then we just want to see that curl up and ideally a nice move ahead of earnings. So I do have ZOM high on my radar for this week. I do like what they were doing on Friday. So what did they do on Friday? How many dollars was that? They had a $2.44 move. So they closed at 104.27. So again, keep ZOM on your radar. Let's go back. This little zoom thing is in my way, so if it looks like I'm struggling, it's always in my way. Get it out. There we go. So you can again find nice setups just looking at what was moving. Tesla, 3% up from their fall from grace. Okay. So let's look at the Tesla chart and see what would be our plan for Tesla. I'm gonna delete this. All right, Tesla, Tesla, Tesla. We are gonna pull back to what I think is important. I'm gonna look at the monthly chart on Tesla. All right, monthly. All right, so Tesla price is starting to fall below the wolf trend moving average, and we are at the 12 EMA. We had a nice wick. Do I have a box here? Yeah, I do. Okay. We had a nice wick through it. There's still a low that Tesla can test and needs to hold support at of 271 on the money. All right. We want to see Tesla hold above 271. That's just going to be a rough one. A more significant support level that I will say we're pulling from the monthly. So 271 exact. That is measuring the low of the May candle. Now 271. You know how I do. I don't have time to stare at all of this. I'm just going to put an alert. Let me know if it comes there. All right, I'm not going to really play too much with any other levels on the monthly. I just like 271. And maybe if we start to catch some momentum, and I'll come back and look to see if we're starting to break back above the opening price of June, which was 343.50. Can you believe we fell that far? Sad, sad story. Thanks, Elon and Trump. Honestly, thank them because while politicians are playing this game and Elon is having his meltdown against Trump and all of that is going on, what do? Make money. Okay? Make money. Um, and this was a great opportunity, honestly. If you look at the pullback, it just was a really nice opportunity on Tesla. So I'm looking at the weekly chart, and again, price is it was above the 12 EMA on the weekly chart. We were making our way nice moves up. I caught some of the gap up. We closed a gap. And again, price just really needs to hold above 271. I don't see anything special other than when you look at 271 and you look at it from the weekly chart, we are right at a fair value gap. Okay. So that fair value gap was created during the gap ups at the end of April. So we had this very big, very strong candle where Tesla gapped up $43 in a week, created this fair value gap. Price came back and tested it. And when it came back and tested it the first time, right back up. Looks like we got a nice wick cap and it pulled right back up. So now we're right back full circle. Again, price needs to hold 271. That's going to be my story from there, 265 and somewhere around 261. From there, if we lose that, we're coming to the 250s. That's a super bearish scenario, okay? I try not to be super bearish when I see these pullbacks. I just keep in mind that's where we can go. When we zoom in on a 3-day, there is a lot of support. So, I mean, they could come through a little bit more, but the 200 on a 3-day is right at about 263. So we'll watch 271, we'll watch the 260s and see if we find support around 250s. Those are rough numbers. My eye will just be in 271 for now. All right. Look at this. So we did gap down. We did pull back into a daily order block, but price did have a nice recovery. We'll say recovery because we closed so low. We closed at 284.70 and we opened at 298.83. So everyone that caught a swing trade at the pullback was able to capitalize and cash out on Friday at opening or however long you chose to hold the trade. I would have jumped right out at opening just because I don't have time for Tesla. A lot of times it's just too stressful. But what it did was it found support at a historical line here around 291.80-ish. So you could say that Tesla basically had an inside day based off of this huge sell-off on Thursday. So still nothing special. They still closed with a red candle. And we are at the bottom of my cloud here on the wolf chart, which is sketchy. We have to see if we'll pull back against this area here. And if you look, this 271 just keeps measuring up on my wolf chart to an historical support line to a fair value gap. So it's just what to watch, right? We'll watch to see if they lose the low at actually I would measure previous day high and low. Do it just like that. Then you can do your ORB or whatever method or approach you use to enter your trades for the week. We'll have to see what Tesla does. So I'm not gonna spend any more time on Tesla. What are some other things we've been watching? Don't look at that. My alerts, I do need to clean them up for the week. Gold was down about 4%. Ooh, look at gold. This might be a nice one to consider. I knew they were gonna do that. When I saw where they were Thursday, I missed this, but I should have known that this was the play, right? They hit this order block right here, and I just saw that Thursday they just was tapping it but not doing anything significant. So they're pulling back, possibly gonna come right back to 303. I have 302.71. I don't even remember where I got that from, but it must be here. Yep, somewhere around here. It has been an area of support. And honestly, they could just keep trending downwards, but we just need to see what the week gives and what stocks are doing. We know that Trump is supposed to be meeting with China in London. I think it's London. Either way, there's a conversation to be had. They're meeting up. We have CPI and PPI, and we need to see what movements will be based on how the market is looking ahead of this important data and how they're going to react to news from Trump and China. So the only thing I'm gonna say with gold is we're under the wolf trend moving average and we're at the 12 EMA, and they still have some opportunities to gap down. If they lose this trend line and starts to break down here, we're gonna come close the gap somewhere around this area here. Still is an open gap to fill. So I'll keep gold on my radar, and I'm thinking it just looks a little weak after hitting that order block. All right, so let's look at some other stuff. I'm gonna go to my more recent watch list. There's so many people that cover SPY for you guys that I just let that one be. It's more of a day trade thing. Carvana, I want to show you guys something with Carvana. Okay, so um, Carvana closed so bullish, so bullish. I love this. I love this so much. Okay. It's I feel like it's rare but exciting when you catch what we call the floating candle on a monthly chart. Okay. So we have this candle here above the 12, above the trend line, breaking this trend line, and Carvana made a plus 82 on last month because we're on a monthly. They had earnings. Here's their earnings results. Insane, insane. And so buyers really showed out on Carvana. So then you get a continuation candle so far for this month, right? So they are at let's see, so far this month they hit 351.43. Their all-time high is set right here at 376.83, and they are booming. Okay, they had so many green days, just repeated green days, and so they're closing so far at 341.46. I would say Carvana is one to watch. They're just going. Look at this. Look at how amazing this move has been. No chill for 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. Because this is a 2 week chart. Look at the weekly chart. No chill. Why did we slow down? We hit this order block right here. They move right through. Now, can they come wick here and maybe start to pull back and settle down a little bit? Maybe so. Maybe we can see that. They haven't been back to this area since, whoa, let's see. They haven't been here since 2021. So maybe what they're doing is coming, hit that, and we might get a pullback there because if they break out, what do we get next? Should be a break of structure and just a continued gap up. So Carvana still has a squeeze, but they did hit an order block. You have to keep that in mind on the weekly chart. There's more resistance ahead when they gap up to here. I think they'll really react right here around 358. You can find the exact number if we find the candle that created that sell-off. Resistance around 357.89. So I could add that to my chart. So anyway, just want to put Carvana on your watch. I'm not going to zoom into any smaller time frames here. Um, we can look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA showed out. All right, so NVIDIA obviously is in a very choppy situation. That is the story. They are just hitting some resistance in all of this order block. They don't have clean skies until they really just break their all-time highs. So it's just a choppy move. It doesn't mean that buyers can't push them up, but they're just going to be moving a bit choppy. We're looking at where they recently were, which was at 143.49. And then they're still trying to break that. They're still trying to clear through some of this. So Nvidia is still worth a watch. Would I buy it this high? No, no, not at all. You want to see some type of healthy pullback, but they so far have been holding strong. We'll have to see if they start to give that pullback that we would like to see. Um, Even when they did pull back post earnings, look where the wick came. The wick came all the way to 132.92, and they started to gap up again, right back to that order block. So, they still have some attention. I can see nothing I'm really interested in where it's at. UNH might be another one. What we're looking at with UNH is still they're consolidating here on the daily chart. They're just chopping around this area, but I've been having 303.38 on my chart for a minute, and we still have not broken that price and closed the daily candle above it, trying to reclaim the 12. That's what you want to see happen next. 303, 306, and I really want to see them come test here. I'm not saying it's going to happen fast, but where they are now, they're in position to do a few things. They can pull back and start to come back to this lower level, but they have just been consolidating for their next move. And let's just take a look. Yeah, they're just, and it's just chop, chop, chop. Now, I'm not saying that in this because look at that, a closing of plus $7. I'm not saying you can't make money, but we still need to understand where they're trying to go with this stock. They're just squeezed in right here, 288, and this area here, 303. So I would keep UNH on watch as well. So I think I'm gonna stop here, guys. I gave you a few plays. I gave you a little bit to look at with play and also with KMX, which is CarMax. We looked at ZOM, we looked at UNH. I think that you kind of got an idea. Keep an eye on Tesla. We do need to see how the market is going to open this week and where they could possibly go with Tesla. I'm going to do a little bit more of a deeper dive into the charts tonight. I'm interested in Tesla as well too. going into next week. If you did find this video helpful, please do like, subscribe, and share. Leave comments. I do appreciate the engagement. It does help me to know that you're watching and that this has been valuable for you. If you have questions or disagree, let me know. I like to have conversations. Also appreciate everyone reaching out and showing support. I will keep these going, and maybe one day my schedule allows me to keep doing more dailies. Also, look out for our next live session. I am going to be posting a time. It will be a midweek live session. It'll be an evening session, so we'll have dinner and then we'll hop into the chart. So make sure that you're there. I will record it, and as usual, I'll post it here on this channel. Thank you. Have a great evening. Bye.